In a dimly lit apartment, Trinity is deeply engaged in an encrypted conversation on her computer discussing a man who might be the one. However, her conversation is abruptly interrupted when a SWAT team bursts into the room. Trinity kneels and places her hands on her head. An officer advances, handcuffs in hand, thinking he has the upper hand, but in a movement almost too fast for the human eye, Trinity turns around. She strikes the officer with 2 quick blows and finishes with a slow-motion aerial kick. Then she charges at the rest of the squad, taking them down in seconds. Immediately, she communicates the situation to someone named Morpheus, who warns her that there's no time and instructs her to head to a nearby phone booth as an escape route. But as soon as she hangs up, more officers and agents in dark suits appear. A rooftop chase ensues where they defy gravity and the laws of motion. In a particularly daring leap, Trinity crosses a vast gap between buildings. The officers stop, aware of their limits, but not the agent in the dark suit. He repeats the supernatural jump and lands successfully. Trinity finally reaches the booth, but a truck is heading straight for her. The phone begins to ring, and in a race against death, she manages to grab the phone just moments before the truck crashes into the booth. The agents in suits inspect the wreckage, but Trinity has vanished. Nevertheless, one assures that it doesn't matter, as a snitch has revealed their next target, Neo, the supposed chosen one. Neo, who is a programmer by day and a hacker by night, is asleep at his desk, surrounded by the glow of his computer. Suddenly, a sound wakes him, and looking at the screen, he reads a message. "Wake up, Neo. The Matrix has you. Follow the white rabbit." At that moment, knocks at his door interrupt his trance. It's Choi, a client, accompanied by his friends. Neo pulls a diskette from a book titled Simulacra and Simulation and asks Choi to keep his identity secret, to which Choi confidently responds, "You don't exist." The title of that book is not coincidental. I'll soon explain its significance. Choi notices Neo's pale appearance. He suggests that Neo needs to unplug and invites him to a nightclub. Neo hesitates until he sees a white rabbit tattoo on the back of Choi's girlfriend. The sign is clear, so he accepts the invitation. At the club, a mysterious figure approaches, calling Neo by his name. It's Trinity, warning him that he's in danger and that he's being watched. The woman adds that she has been watching him day and night. She knows he's looking for an answer, and that search brought him here. "What is the Matrix?" Neo asks. And Trinity concludes, "The answer is out there, and it will find you if you want it." The next day, Neo arrives late to his job. His boss, who knows him as Thomas Anderson, harshly criticizes him and presents him with a choice. Either adhere to the punctuality rules or look for another job. Neo nods and returns to his cubicle, where he receives a mysterious package containing a cell phone that rings instantly. It's Morpheus telling him that he has been searching for him and they don't have much time. He reveals to Neo that he is being pursued and doesn't know what they plan. Neo is confused, but as he stands from his desk, he spots the agents in suits heading towards him. Then Morpheus, who seems to see everything, gives Neo real-time instructions to evade the approaching agents. He guides him to a window, suggesting he escape to an external platform leading to the roof. Neo has to make a decision, exit through the window or be captured. Initially, he opts for the former, but as he looks into the abyss, he doubts himself and decides to surrender. Neo is taken to an interrogation room. The leader of the agents reveals that they have been tracking him and know that he leads 2 lives. In one, he is the respectable programmer Thomas Anderson, and in the other, he is the criminal hacker Neo. Then the agent reveals that they know he has been contacted by a man known as Morpheus, considered the most dangerous man in the world, and they offer him a deal. Erase his record and give him a new chance in exchange for helping them stop this dangerous criminal. But Neo proposes something different. He shows his middle finger and asks to make his call. The agent smiles and replies that her call is useless if he can't speak, and suddenly Neo's mouth seals shut. Then they subdue him, and the leader inserts a robotic bug into his navel, ensuring that Neo will assist them whether he wants to or not. Suddenly, Neo wakes up in his bed. He's not sure if it was all a nightmare. At that moment, the phone rings. It's Morpheus. He tells him that the agents left him alive because they underestimated his importance and reveals that he is the chosen one. Intrigued and puzzled, Neo follows Morpheus's instructions to meet up. He arrives at a nearby bridge where Trinity and Switch pick him up. Switch points a gun at Neo and orders him to take off his shirt. "You're either with us or you're out," she warns. Neo hesitates, but decides to trust Trinity, who quickly removes the implanted robotic bug from his body, and at that moment, Neo realizes his experience was not a dream. They arrive at the apartment where Morpheus is waiting, where Trinity advises Neo to be completely honest. In the encounter, Morpheus asks Neo if he believes in fate, to which Neo responds that he does not, because he detests the idea of not having control over his life. Morpheus nods, understanding perfectly. He explains that Neo feels that something is wrong with the world, something he can't explain but can feel, and this unrest has brought him here. Neo asks if he's talking about the Matrix, and Morpheus explains that the Matrix is everything he sees. It's the world that has been put in front of his eyes to hide the truth. "Which truth?" Neo asks, and Morpheus responds with a devastating affirmation. "You are a slave who, like everyone else, was born into a prison you cannot perceive, a prison for your mind." Morpheus then presents Neo with a definitive choice: 2 pills. The blue pill will return him to the comfort of his ignorance. The red pill will reveal the hidden, harsh, and painful truth. Without hesitation, Neo chooses the red. They then move move to another room where Morpheus's team prepares for the next step. Neo is connected to a computer, and Morpheus clarifies that the red pill is a marker that will allow them to locate his body in the real world. Shortly after, Neo's perception distorts. A broken mirror restores itself and seems to devour him. Neo can't believe what's happening. Morpheus asks if Neo has ever had a dream that seemed real. What if he never woke from that dream? How would he differentiate the dream from reality? That's what's happening. Neo has lived his entire life in the Matrix, a fictional world, and what he has always considered as real is nothing more than a simulation created to keep humanity submerged in ignorance of a truth yet to be discovered. The mirror is about to completely consume Neo, but at the last moment they locate him in the real world, and Morpheus orders Neo's extraction from the fictional world. Neo awakens in a capsule, surrounded by a sea of human beings submerged in a technologically induced sleep. Cables run through their bodies, anchoring them to an artificial reality. Soon a robot approaches. It grabs Neo by the neck and frees him from the cables that bind him, causing him to fall into sewage. A hatch opens and a robotic hand rescues him, bringing him to Morpheus and his team, who welcome him in the real world. Afterward, Neo undergoes a process of physical and mental rehabilitation as his body and mind have been subjected to atrophy and illusion. His body is weak and his eyes hurt because he has never used them before. Finally, Neo asks the inevitable question, what is this place? Morpheus, however, points out that the when is more important than the where and reveals another truth. Although Neo believes it is the year 1999, they are actually much further ahead in time at a point so distant that no one knows the exact date anymore. Then Morpheus leads Neo through his ship called the Nebuchadnezzar and introduces him to the rest of his team: Apoc, Switch, Cypher, the brothers Tank and Dozer, and Mouse. He then proceeds to teach him what the Matrix is. Neo sits down. His feet are strapped to the chair, and after connecting a cable at the back of his neck, he appears in a completely white space called the Constructor. This is a space where they can program and manifest anything they need, like clothing, weapons, or training programs. To demonstrate, two pieces of furniture appear out of nowhere, further shaking Neo's already wavering notion of reality. Morpheus then poses a question: how do you define what is real? If real is defined by what we can feel, smell, touch, and see, then all that we experience is nothing more than an electrical signal interpreted by our brain. With this, we can understand how the simulation in the Matrix works. Through cables, a person receives a code transformed into electrical signals that their brain understands and interprets as sensory experiences, allowing the individual to experience the simulated world as if it were real. It's as if the Matrix code is a programming language that the human brain can execute to create the illusion of a tangible world. Then Morpheus turns on a television, first showing the world as Neo knew it, the supposed year 1999, and then he shows the real world in the present, desolate and devastated. Morpheus explains that after the creation of artificial intelligence in the early 2000s, a war erupted between humans and machines. Humans destroyed the sky in an attempt to cut off the machine's solar energy source, but in response, the machines began using humans as sources of bioenergy, and to keep their bodies still, they created the Matrix to keep their minds occupied living in a simulation. Now I return to the title Simulacra and Simulation, which is a direct reference to the influential book by Jean Baudrillard. This concept is crucial not only for understanding the movie, but also for understanding our own relationship with reality. Baudrillard argues that we live in an era filled with simulacra, images and representations that not only imitate reality but often replace it. This world of images and copies is so ingrained in our perception that we struggle to discern what is real. A real-life example could be the world of social media. Here, carefully selected, edited, and even manipulated images are presented to project a particular image that in many cases is an idealized version of our lives, blurring the line between reality and representation. In this environment, the digital version of a person might be considered more real than their authentic self, especially if we lack a referent to compare. Matrix and Baudrillard agree that what we consider real is often mediated by layers of images that can be so convincing we find it difficult to discern the authentic from the artificial. They pose the challenge of questioning our assumptions about what we consider real and seeking reference to help us navigate this complexity. In the Matrix, Neo only manages to distinguish reality from the simulation when he finds a referent, the real world that Morpheus reveals to him. Similarly, in our digital lives, we can only discern the authenticity of, for example, a profile by having a more authentic point of reference, like meeting the person in real life. The problem is that in a world saturated with simulacra, finding reference is an increasingly challenging task. The harsh truth is too much for Neo, so he asks to be disconnected, and in doing so, he faints. When he wakes up, he asks if he can go back, but Morpheus responds negatively. However, Morpheus apologizes, revealing that they normally do not free minds past a certain age because they struggle to accept the truth, but he had to awaken Neo because he believes he is the one prophesied by the Oracle, the man who will be able to handle, manipulate, and destroy the Matrix. The next day, Tank, a man without connection, ports on his body, introduces himself to Neo, explaining that he and his brother are 100% human, born in the real world in Zion, the last human city that remains. They then proceed to a new type of training, loading programs directly into Neo's brain. In a matter of seconds, Neo learns jujitsu, and over the next 10 hours, he is loaded with a multitude of combat techniques, preparing him for what he is about to face. Soon comes the time to put his new knowledge to the test in a practice fight with Morpheus. In the construct space, they simulate the programmed reality of the Matrix, but with flexibility in the laws of physics. Morpheus and Neo perform a dance of kicks and acrobatic jumps that defy gravity. Neo shows skill, but is overcome by Morpheus, and when Morpheus asks why Neo thinks he lost, Neo suggests it's about speed. Morpheus corrects him. If it is his mind and not his body that is in the simulation, then the strength and speed he demonstrates have nothing to do with his physical attributes, but with his mind. Neo then begins to understand that he needs to free his mind. To demonstrate this point, Morpheus takes Neo to a building jump program. Morpheus performs a flying jump and successfully lands on a distant building, but Neo, despite the cheers and expectations, fails and falls. Upon being disconnected, Neo notices blood in his mouth. He believed the program wasn't real, but Morpheus explains that his mind makes it real, so if he dies in the Matrix, he dies in the real world. What happens in the Matrix doesn't have a real physical impact, but the power of this simulation to affect the body comes from the mind's belief in its authenticity. Neo didn't fall to the ground in reality, but his mind believes he did, and that's why he bleeds. While Neo rests, Trinity brings him a plate of food. Cypher watches and remembers that she never brought him dinner, and then questions Morpheus's faith in Neo as the chosen one. Why doesn't he take him to the Oracle if he's so sure? In a new training setting, Morpheus reflects more about the Matrix. He states that every person trapped in the simulation, unless awakened, is a potential enemy, as many will even fight to defend the system that oppresses them. During this speech, Neo momentarily gets distracted by an attractive woman, a mistake Morpheus uses to emphasize the need for constant vigilance. Turning around, Neo finds himself face to face with an agent. Morpheus points out that in the Matrix, such a distraction could cost him his life. He then explains that the agents are not connected to a human behind them, but are powerful programs serving as guardians of the Matrix. Thus, they have the power to access any other Matrix program. In other words, they can take over the body of any person within the Matrix. No one has ever defeated them, but Morpheus believes Neo will be the first. The analogy of the Matrix as a mental prison resonates on many levels in our everyday lives. In the movie, the Matrix is a manufactured reality that keeps its inhabitants in a state of ignorant complacency. In our lives, matrices can manifest in various ways: ideologies, limiting beliefs, social roles, cultural expectations, etc. And often, just as a fish immersed in water is unaware of it, the most obvious and important realities are the hardest to see and discuss. For example, social pressure to follow a specific path in life, school, work, marriage, children, can hinder true self-reflection and self-knowledge for many people. Other internal matrices like perfectionism or negative beliefs about ourselves also inhibit our full potential. In romantic relationships, the matrix could be the unquestioned social expectations that dictate how a relationship should function, like the idea that the man should be the main provider and the woman the caretaker of the home. These expectations can be limiting for both, generating dissatisfaction and resentment. In each case, the first step to disconnecting from the matrices is to recognize and question them. Do these expectations and norms truly align with what we want and need, or are they merely social constructs that we have accepted without criticism? Like Neo's journey, liberation comes with questioning and ultimately the courage to make decisions that reflect our true needs and desires. Just then, an emergency call warns them that machines are chasing the ship and the duo is disconnected from the program. In a risky maneuver, Morpheus orders all electrical systems to be cut off, and the ship manages to go undetected by the machine's radar. Then Neo approaches Cypher, and Cypher appears frightened, as if he were hiding something. Neo asks him about the green codes on the screens, and Cypher explains that these codes constitute the Matrix. All those lines represent images in the fictitious world. A certain line might represent a blonde woman, another a large mansion, etc., and the combination of all these codes creates the simulated reality experienced in the Matrix. Afterwards, Cypher gives him a piece of advice. If you see an agent, run, and he doesn't say it lightly because Cypher is the snitch. He is fed up with everything and has stopped believing. He thinks ignorance is bliss, so he has planned to betray Morpheus, the only one of them with the access codes to Zion, in exchange for forgetting everything and being reinserted into the Matrix as someone rich and important. Another day, Morpheus decides it is time to take Neo to the Oracle. Tank and Dozer stay on the ship and the rest enter the Matrix. Morpheus, Neo, and Trinity split up while the others guard the location, and Cypher takes the opportunity to drop a phone to blow their cover. Upon arriving at the Oracle's room, Neo finds himself in a waiting room filled with other potential ones manipulating objects with their minds. One of them, a monk child bending a spoon with his mind, offers him crucial advice. The spoon does not exist, so to bend it, Neo must bend his mind. The spoon does not exist because in the Matrix it is merely a programming code telling Neo's brain that he is seeing a spoon. However, Neo's mind does exist, so what he sees is not a spoon, but his own perception of it. I find many similarities between the Matrix and the theory of the Mexican psychologist and neurophysiologist psychologist Jacobo Grinberg. Grinberg proposed the existence of an underlying informational field called lattice, which intertwines through the entire universe and contains all the information of all things. However, it lacks the qualities or subjective experiences associated with them. It's like a cake recipe that contains its ingredients and procedures, but not the taste experience of the finished cake. Similarly, the world of the Matrix contains a fundamental code that holds the information of objects, but not their sensory experience. That's the task of the brain. According to Grinberg's theory, the brain functions as a decoder that transforms the raw information from the lattice into the reality we experience. Similarly, in the Matrix, it is the interaction of the human brain with the code that brings the simulated reality to life. To better understand this theory, imagine you have a bunch of Lego pieces without instructions. The brain takes these pieces and assembles them into a form we can comprehend. Here's the catch. We're not interacting with real objects, but with the version that our brain has constructed of those objects. It's as if we believe that the assembled Lego structure is the true form of those pieces, forgetting that we were the ones who assembled them that way in the first place. Remember the little monk? There is no spoon as such. It only exists as our mind assembles it. For Grinberg, this misunderstanding leads us to believe that the constructed reality is independent of us, when in reality we are the ones generating it. But why then do we all experience a reality so similar? Grinberg argues that factors such as biology, evolution, and collective experiences program our brains in a similar way. This results in a coherent interpretation of certain stimuli. Thus, an apple is presented to us as red and tasty, reflecting how our brains have evolved to process light and flavor in specific ways. This principle is also seen in the Matrix, where the inhabitants of the simulated world live a common reality despite its constructed origin. I will return to the most striking part of this theory at the end. Neo complies and manages to bend the spoon, and just as he achieves this mental breakthrough, he is summoned by the Oracle, who turns out to be an elderly woman. She quickly demonstrates her ability to predict the future, foreseeing that Neo would accidentally break a vase, and then she poses the question, "Would you have broken it if I hadn't said anything?" Neo confesses his doubts about being the one, to which the Oracle responds that this kind of certainty is something one feels rather than something that is told to them. She then examines Neo and concludes that he is not the one. He has something special, but it seems he is waiting for something, and she expresses pity for Morpheus. She explains that Morpheus believes so blindly in Neo that he is willing to die for him, and then she reveals a disturbing prophecy. One of the two will die, and Neo will have to decide who. This interaction opens up a philosophical debate between fate and free will. However, the Oracle does not resolve this dilemma, but rather offers a reconfiguration of it. The Oracle's view of the future could be compared to a constantly moving river. Although there is a channel that directs the flow of water, various factors such as weather and human intervention can alter its course. Similarly, our lives have patterns that suggest a kind of destiny, but our actions and decisions have the potential to divert that stream and modify the predetermined path. In this sense, the Oracle's vision of the future is not an immutable destiny that will inevitably be fulfilled, but rather a set of possibilities that constantly interact with our decisions and actions. She recognizes that there is a channel in Neo's life, but she also knows that he has the ability to alter that course through his choices. Neo doubts himself, and this produces an unfavorable prediction. Neo possesses the necessary elements to be the chosen one, but it is his responsibility to make the choices that consolidate that destiny. This story is not about Neo discovering he is the chosen one, but about Neo choosing to be it. The team returns to the location to try to exit the Matrix, but the situation complicates. Thanks to Cypher, the agents have located the place and modified the building so that the group cannot escape. Mouse is killed, and the rest of the team follows the instructions of Tank, who guides them towards the pipes. As they descend stealthily, Cypher sneezes, and they are discovered. An agent breaks through the wall with his arms, capturing Neo. Upon seeing this, Morpheus attacks the agent to free Neo and orders the team to extract the supposed chosen one. Morpheus confronts the agent, but the agent is far superior, and Morpheus is captured. The colluding Cypher separates from the group and takes the opportunity to escape, contacting Tank to find a place to disconnect from the Matrix, and Tank, unaware of the betrayal, directs both Cypher and the rest of the team to the same location. However, Cypher arrives first, and upon being disconnected, he uses a ray gun to kill Tank and Dozer, preventing Trinity and the others from escaping. Trinity then calls the ship, and Cypher answers, revealing what he has done. He prefers to live comfortably in the Matrix rather than in this uncomfortable reality. The traitor then unplugs the cables from Apoc and Switch, and they vanish, and just as he's about to do the same to Neo, testing his status as the chosen one, a miracle occurs. Tank, whom Cypher believed to be dead, gets up and kills him. Immediately afterward, he establishes the exit point for Trinity and Neo, and they manage to disconnect. On the other hand, Morpheus is tortured by the agents who are trying to obtain from him the access codes to Zion. If an agent were to get the codes, they could destroy the last remnants of humanity, and they cannot allow that to happen. So in great pain, Tank prepares to sacrifice Morpheus, but just before he does, Neo stops him. The Oracle had told him this would happen and that he would have to make a choice. He decides to prepare to enter the Matrix and try to rescue Morpheus, asserting that he must do it because he now believes in something. Meanwhile, the agent introduces himself as Smith and reveals to Morpheus that upon analyzing humans, he discovered that they are not mammals because they do not achieve a natural balance with their environment. Instead, they move from area to area, exhausting all resources. There is only one other organism that behaves this way, a virus. Therefore, for Smith, humans are a plague that must be exterminated. Trinity accompanies Neo to the Matrix and they arm themselves to the teeth before entering. Once inside, the duo faces a squad of policemen, and with a series of acrobatic moves, precise shots, and spectacular kicks, they defeat the officers. However, the real test awaits them higher up. On the rooftop, Neo faces an agent who seems invulnerable. In an iconic moment, Neo dodges bullets as he leans backward in slow motion, though the last one grazes him. Neo gains more power within the Matrix as he starts to believe more in himself and his ability to defy the rules of the system. The teachings of the young monk about the non-existence of the spoon reveal to him that other limitations, such as gravity or time, are also illusions programmed by the machines, and the more he frees himself from these limiting beliefs, the more powerful he becomes. However, despite these advances, Neo still has doubts, especially about himself, which is reflected when he is grazed by a bullet, indicating that his transformation is still in progress. Neo is about to be executed, but Trinity intervenes at the crucial moment, taking out the agent. Then they board a helicopter and Neo uses a turret to free Morpheus, who is trapped in a room guarded by agents. Although the agents reappear as they are programs that cannot die, Neo manages to buy enough time for Morpheus to free himself and jump to the helicopter. Morpheus reaffirms his belief in Neo as the One. Neo tries to explain what the Oracle told him, but Morpheus interrupts him, telling him that she said exactly what he needed to hear, and adds that knowing the path is different from walking it. Remember, Neo's journey is not about discovering that he is the chosen one, but about choosing to be it. Immediately afterward, the trio calls Tank to secure an exit from the Matrix. Morpheus and Trinity are successfully evacuated, but just as Neo is about to leave, Agent Smith appears and destroys the phone. Neo contemplates the stairs as he faces another decision, to flee or to fight Smith. He turns around. He has decided to believe and fight. In an intense struggle, both inflict damage, but Smith proves to be superior. The agent subdues Neo on the tracks as a train approaches, but just about to be run over, Neo makes an impossible leap, frees himself from the agent, and performs a backward somersault to dodge the train while Agent Smith is crushed. However, soon Smith takes another body and reappears. Neo runs and calls the ship to get another exit while being chased by the agents. The ship is being attacked by Sentinels. If Neo doesn't exit soon, they won't be able to use the electromagnetic pulse to stop the attacks. Neo finally reaches the phone, but only to find Smith waiting for him. The agent shoots him in the chest, and Neo falls dead. Morpheus and Trinity watch in shock, but driven by her love and faith, she whispers to Neo that the Oracle revealed she would fall in love with the Chosen One, so he cannot be dead because she loves him. Then she kisses Neo, and with that, he comes back to life, more powerful than ever. In Matrix, what you believe, you create. Neo dies because his mind accepts that he was shot. The Oracle predicts he is not the Chosen One because Neo still doubts himself. However, Trinity's love and the lessons he has learned on his journey allow for a radical change. He realizes that his ability to modify the Matrix lies in his faith in himself. It's when he decides to believe in himself that he begins to feel that he truly is the Chosen One, effectively becoming such. This grants him the ability to manipulate the Matrix, resulting in his resurrection. Now Neo can see and manipulate the code of the Matrix, so as soon as he gets up and is shot at by the agents, he stops the bullets with his mind. Smith tries to attack him, but this time Neo easily defeats him. Then Neo enters Smith's body and destroys him. The agents are nothing more than programs, and since Neo now has access to the code, he can deprogram them. Now, the most striking part of Grinberg's theory. According to the Doctor, if the mind plays an active role in constructing our reality, then there could be individuals with a higher level of consciousness capable of interacting more directly and consciously with the lattice. Unlike the rest of us, who only experience the end product of this interaction, these people would be aware of the process itself by which their brain interacts with the lattice. This would allow them, in theory, not only to experience reality, but also to edit it, just as Neo did with the Matrix code. For Grinberg, this could explain phenomena he witnessed with shamans, as well as miraculous abilities attributed to historical and religious figures like Jesus. However, Neo must hurry as the Sentinels are destroying the ship. The man takes the phone, exits the Matrix, and instantly Morpheus activates the electromagnetic pulse, neutralizing the Sentinels. Upon awakening, evening, Neo and Trinity share a passionate kiss. In a final act of rebellion, Neo re-enters the Matrix to issue a warning to the machines. He is going to free humanity from the slavery of the Matrix. Neo's figure appears to mirror that of Christ. Both are seen as the chosen ones, destined to liberate humanity through a message of truth. In Neo's case, it is Trinity's love that resurrects him, reflecting how the Holy Trinity resurrects Christ. Moreover, both Christ and Neo face betrayals that are crucial for their respective missions. Christ by Judas and Neo by Cypher. Ultimately, both characters transcend the limitations of their worlds. According to Grinberg's theory, Christ would have had access to the lattice, which would explain his miraculous feats. Similarly, Neo accesses the underlying code of the Matrix, granting him exceptional abilities. Ultimately, both Grinberg's theory and the world of the Matrix invite us to question our perception of reality and the limitations imposed by our own minds. They remind us that although we are trapped in systems, whether cosmic structures like the lattice or simulated realities like the Matrix, we have the capacity to transcend them. Anyways, I want to conclude with Neo's journey of enlightenment from doubt to faith. From the beginning, Neo is caught in his own doubt, preferring to surrender to the authorities rather than take the risk of escaping through the window. Then, although he chooses to stay in the car when Switch gives him the option to leave, he does so more out of faith in Trinity than a firm belief in his own destiny. Later, his choice of the red pill represents another leap toward faith, yet doubts are still manifested in his first attempt to jump between buildings and in his encounter with the Oracle. However, as the story progresses, Neo begins to replace the doubt that paralyzes him with an increasing faith in his own power and destiny. This change is clearly manifested when he decides to rescue Morpheus, articulated in his statement, "I have to go because now I believe in something." The culminating point of this transformation process is observed when Neo decides to confront Smith instead of fleeing. At that moment, faith has evaporated doubt, and it is the sum of these brave decisions, sustained by an increasingly unbreakable faith in himself, that finally allows him to fully embrace his role as the chosen one. Likewise, this tension between doubt and faith is also manifested among characters. In his book Beyond the Matrix, Stephen Fowler points out something fascinating. The name Neo is an anagram of 1, while Cypher phonetically means 0. These characters could be interpreted as the two fundamental digits of the binary system that governs computers, 1 and 0, symbolizing that the complexities and multiple options of life boil down to one fundamental decision: choosing the 1, which represents possibility, potential, and belief in something greater than oneself, or the 0, symbolizing nothingness, nihilism, and a doubt that paralyzes and destroys. Doubt and faith are the two sides of the coin of our free will, and it is through our decision-making, in the constant confrontation between doubt and faith, where we find not only our humanity, but also our potential to change, evolve, and perhaps liberate ourselves.